really just try to find out, how do you live a life of revolutionary status?
My personal opinion, being a Hamilton agent, you won't avoid the investment scene.
Oh, okay, we're all not going to die. What does this mean for real estate?
What you see is what you get.
Fostering a positive celebratory culture. Welcome back to another episode of BeREVELutionary podcast. This is the podcast where we interview Revel's top sales agents, head coaches, and industry leaders. And, you know, we really just try to find out, how do you live a life of revolutionary status? That's not normally my tagline, but because we have our Hamilton head coach here, Abdellah Majd. Did I do it?
Majd, you got it.
Yes.
But,
we were practicing. He sent me a voice note earlier, and I was like, shit. Oh, it's because I do it all the time with our head coaches, and it's just I gotta say a name 100 times, and then the more
time
times
you need to do it,
the more I always come through. But it's just the more and more you say something in your head, you're like, don't screw it up, don't screw it up. But yeah, man, thanks for coming down from Hamilton. We really appreciate it. How's it going up in Hamilton? I'm seeing like. I've been hearing like it's actually like really, really busy right now. Is that true, or is it just some instances maybe watered down? Or
I would say, I mean, first and foremost, thanks for having me. I love doing these podcasts, especially to get the Revel brand out there. But Hamilton's a little hit and miss right now.
Yeah,
for sure.
All right.
So I mean, don't believe everything you hear.
So just some hype is what we're hearing from some
hype. Now, like some listings are getting the attraction they deserve. Yeah. I think that's comes down to price point and where people strategize. But it looks like there is like a kind of
something coming back.
Yeah. Some consumer confidence for sure. I think it's kind of what we expected. We'll see what this rate announcement looks like on the 25th. I think that'll, further kind of cement which direction we go in. But there's some instances where you see multiple offers again, in the double digits. Some are getting even crazier. I'm just seeing this like through other platforms, right?
And this podcast is going to be played well into the future, so we don't need to spend too much time on the actual market. But it's interesting that all this different markets, what's going on right now. I thought that was so we could get into kind of what you're doing to strategize with your team and whatnot. But before we get into that, I want to say congrats, by the way, because we were doing our annual managers meeting, and we were going over stats and recruitment and overall production and what are you at now? 21 agents?
Yeah, we're at 21 licenses. 3 of them are in the queue. 3 of the agents are in the queue. So on the 3rd, 4th, last exam, whatever the case is.
So you did that like before you secured an or like opened your doors, technically, right?
Yeah. Trying to follow what we do with Revel and releasing kind of the Revel Ed stuff and making sure there's some further commitment. But I haven't had any issues with like people like signing on and then just trying to kind of steamroll through the courses. Man. Yeah. So,
but like to do all of that in because when did you sign on with us?
So March 1st.
Holy smokes.
Yeah. So
not even a year.
Yeah, not even a year. So yeah, March 1st, we were officially with Revel. June 1st, we moved into our new office space at 69 John Street South. And yeah, it's almost like, we're coming up on 10 months, 11 months. So yeah.
Yeah. Holy smokes. Yeah. Man, that's amazing. Cause I mean, Niagara on the Lake, a little bit smaller, but still like before we opened 2 years ago, we had amalgamated with an existing like satellite office that they had.
Yeah.
And they had like 10 agents there, and we brought on maybe 10 agents in the last year or so. So like from a growth perspective, you guys are just like, you're on.
Yeah. It's been good in that sense for sure. I definitely have to give credit to a lot of the current agents that we were able to recruit early on that have really kind of taking that Revel mindset and kind of shared it with their network.
Yep.
So we've had a lot of like organic meetings that way, which is unreal. We had 2 last week, and we're send down some high quality agents for sure. Mm-hmm. And not to say that we don't love the the agents that are just getting into the business. We have a ton of, you know, rookies and people within their first 2 years. And my whole thing was, you know, if I can grow with people out of the gate, right, and we can show them the value that they, you know, that they need to get to that level of production in an efficient manner, then, you know, that retention side will be, you know, you'll never have to worry about it. I mean, we know stuff happens, but
yeah, I think it's like what we always kind of say in what we say in our recruiting meetings too, is just like, it's not whether, you know, you want to come and do 10 deals, you want to come and do 100 deals. It's that you're embracing the culture, because I mean, like, we could have had 5,000 agents by now in 8 years if we really, really wanted to.
imagine so, yeah.
But it's not about that. It's about, you know, fostering a positive celebratory culture that basically, you know, that if you need to make these shifts, if you need to build this family style team in your office to better serve your clients or each other, you need to have everybody kind of bought in, right?
100%.
So you were saying you were doing meetings. Now, do you hold like brokerage meetings and stuff like that too?
Yeah. So we're
It's
Bailey.
tough to get everybody in, but
Yeah, it is. But I mean, it's been very cool to witness. Like, sometimes, you know, Bailey and I will sit there and we look back and there's like 12, 13 people in the office,
wild, man.
right? Usually it's, you know, you come in for, you know, training. So we'll have like more centralized training at Hamilton Central.
Good.
Right. We're bringing in different speakers, you know, do some investment stuff as well, in and out of the office. Yeah, so we're doing our brokerage meetings now the last Thursday of every month. So our first one officially will be, or for the year, will be next week. It's a great turnout there every time. So I don't know, we might have to look into a bigger space already.
That's good.
Not looking forward to that overhead, but I mean, look, if it calls for it, then you got to do what's good for the greater good. So, yeah, brokerage meetings, again, the in-house training we've implemented, and we've basically just opened up an avenue where, you know, we have our Slack channel as well. We take all the input from everybody. Hey, how do you want to see us do this?
Yeah.
What do we need help with? Like, do we need to set, you know, training about scripting, or talking to an investor, or maybe, you know, we bring you in to talk about luxury, whatever the case is, right? Like, we're just pulling in from every which way to talk about certain aspects of the business. Me with the investment side that I do heavily, we're trying to implement that as well. I think being a Hamilton agent, my personal opinion, you won't avoid the investment scene.
Right.
It's impossible.
Yeah.
There aren't many people that you speak to or you speak with out there that don't express interest in, okay, I bought my home, now I'm looking to do this. Right. So yeah, it's been good. Like you said earlier on, Andrew, when you buy in, to me, it's a wrap, right? Like, then to further carry out your vision and further expand with the right agents becomes that much easier. Right. So
yeah. Well, I love that.
Yeah.
And then, so explain a little bit of, you know, what your business looked like maybe before you joined Revel. How long have you been
in real estate?
Well, because I was going to go and say, how long have you been in the business?
Don't worry. I do that too with the first.
I'm dyslexia,
yeah,
man.
me too. I'm the worst, man. I'm the worst.
So let's start there. How long have you been in the business, and then we'll kind of.
Yeah, so got my license in March 21st, 2016. That's just my psychotic memory, but yeah, so I'll be going into my 8th year. This year, first couple of years, like, I was in the restaurant industry for 11 years.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, at the Keg.
Yeah, that's right.
At the Keg in Upper James in Hamilton. And then it was just kind of like perfect timing. The owners decided to knock it down and rebuild it, you know, to more of, you know, this day and age type.
Yeah, modernized, whatever.
Type of building and setting and size especially was the big issue there. So I remember thinking, like, it was probably two years and a bit when that happened, and I kind of looked at myself. I'm like, if I go and take a shift here and there at like their sister stores in Waterdown and Brantford, I'm never gonna dive in headfirst into real estate. So back to my, like, Ryan Serhant, I know maybe people know this, like, his whole thing about backing yourself into a corner, and I did. I'll be honest, like, the first few months probably lived off my credit card.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm sure with all, you know, we've been investing a long time too, since 2013. So money doesn't really sit in the account much.
Yeah,
right. So it's always been dispersed towards assets, but
I love it.
Yeah. And I'll never forget it, man. I was just like, I have to do it. And I remember, my girlfriend Nevada, like we're sitting there talking. I'm like, it's happening. And then I joined a team at the time when I was with KW. I was KW.
Yep.
So I was KW the entire first 6 years of my career. So I was on.
So you were working at the cake while getting right.
Yeah.
Okay.
So when I was fully licensed, I was whatever doing deals here and there, as with everybody, using my SOI and refer on from there. Started with investors naturally. I'd already been in the space for 3 to 4 years, so very comfortable there. And if you ever spoke to anybody, even Bailey, who witnessed this, like, used to bring my computer in. Sometimes I'd meet clients in the bar before my shift, drop an offer or counter an offer, whatever the case is. And like, I had seniority there. So to some extent, the managers weren't kind of bothered, they'd say stuff, but they knew that I could, multitask, or I'd have my computer in the back. Right. And I'd be drawing up offers or dealing with agents and booking showings, whatever the case is. So, that's how it's,
what you gotta do, man.
Yeah.
Right.
That was just it. Like, it was just, to me, I just, blinders on, and I just kind of looked at where I needed to go. And then, the spring of 2018, 18 is when I jumped on a team there. So I was there for 3 years, learned a lot, learned the structure. I flew off the seat of my pants, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or whatever that saying is. But I needed to, like, with all things considered, when I decided, hey, this is the moment to shift, I was like, I'm going to shift, and I'm going to shift correctly. I'm not going to just, go full time and then still not do things from a business perspective.
That's right.
Right. Sit down, organize your database, spend time on, lead gen, lead input, create the system. There it was more about absorbing the systems because we had them in place.
Right.
And,
as a team. Yeah.
Right. In the team setting. And, man, the rest is history. So 2 years later, I started, actually, when was COVID? 2020?
Yeah.
So March
February
14th.
2020.
February, March 2020. I remember, messaged Bailey, and I'm like, it's time.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to start this team. And that was it. So it's been 3 years.
What a wild time to consider that. Because, if I remember correctly, it wasn't March, April. It wasn't like till the end of April where we're like, oh, okay, we're all not going to die.
Yeah.
And I don't mean like physical sense, maybe, but I meant like from a business standpoint where I was like, uh-oh, what does this mean
what's
for real
going
estate?
on? Yeah, man. That was when, like, I remember, like, we basically lived in our living room during COVID, and, like, everybody spent your days on the computer for a bit and then turning to wine.
Yeah.
Way too early.
Yeah.
And getting on some group chats at night. But
house party, I remember.
Yeah, you remember House Party?
Oh my God.
And you could, like, enter chats with, like, unless somebody blocked any other outsiders, you could enter and we used to, it was hilarious. But looking back at that, it's just crazy to me. So I just figured, like, here's downtime.
Yep.
When people wouldn't normally do this, it's like, am I going to wait to see how this market unfolds or how the world unfolds? We're dealing with something nobody's ever seen.
Right.
Like, so to me, it's like, am I going to wait and then wait for answers and all this? I'm like, forget it. Money was fine. Called, texted Bailey. She's like, I'm on board. And then that was it. And it was just kind of her and I. And then sorry, by that point I had like 3 or 4 agents under me. So we would do our monthly or our, like, weekly meetings, and then we do, like, a social thing on Fridays, and then we kind of built on from there. And then 2 years later, here we are.
Yeah.
So I won't forget when we officially moved over. That was a little hectic.
Oh man, right? It always is. Yeah, it always is.
But I know Rebecca, I think Emily was still off at the time, but Rebecca and Paula were. Paula's
unbelievable.
Yeah, unbelievable, right? And I know Rebecca had tons on her plate at the time. With taking
she
on
was
Brantford
just absorbing a new brand, a new role at with Emily gone.
She's a jack of all, but her and Paula were incredible that day. I remember, absolutely. And we were ready to move. So
where did the desire When did you first hear of Revel? When did you?
So, I mean, I did quite a bit of business out Niagara Way.
Yep.
Again, on the investment side more, and I've been out to a bunch of appointments out here when I was in my earlier years as well. And I used to see the signs all the time.
Yeah.
And like, to me, I said it before, like I have a psychotic memory. It's freaky. So all brand recognition, right?
Yeah.
Like I always used to see it. I'm like, and then you'd hear about it or see it online. And I'm like, obviously this company's got a huge.
Yeah. Didn't we almost do a referral together too? Me and you?
Yeah. My buddy Zorn.
Yeah.
Yeah. He was looking out in Font Hill. It's funny. He just poured the
concrete
foundation. Yeah.
Nice.
So he's moving along. Yeah. Great execution by him. So, but yeah, that was when you and I chatted. I reached out about some Font Hill Pelham numbers. Right. So, and it was just evident. Like I didn't, you drive by, it's just like that whole thing about your mind just picks up things and then recognizes it much later. And that was it. And then, like the true introduction to Revel, to Ryan and Nikki was, through Danielle Migwes.
Yep.
Out in Barrie, right?
Dan.
And Big Dan, my buddy there.
Yeah.
So
I love Dan. Man.
Yeah. Great guys. So him and Danielle are, good friends of ours. And,
you guys like working together, do
so Dan and I originally met on our previous team,
right?
With KW.
Yeah, that's right.
He worked out of the same office, co-owning, some real estate ventures there, and that's him. That's him and I've known each other for a few years now, and then we all try to get we're here, they're up there. We try to get together every so often. Obviously, they got a couple little ones, so and I remember, so we went out for dinner, us four, and then a good buddy of mine and his girlfriend, and they're like, yeah, they've been talking about bringing Revel to Hamilton. It's interesting. And I've always had this thing in the back of my mind, like of eventually running a brokerage.
Absolutely.
Right. And it was just I didn't really talk about it much, maybe to, Bailey, or my friend, my family here and there. And I just remember like thinking about it. I'm like, this is a huge leap. But I'm like, it's something that if I don't do, I'm going to regret it. That's the way I looked at it, right? And then obviously meeting Ryan and Nikki, and then yourself. We met at headquarters there that first time in the boardroom, and we went through the that presentation there.
It's hard to say no after that, right? Especially sitting with Ryan and Nikki, you and I, already like, man, like Ryan and Nikki sitting with them. It's just like you kind of feel home almost immediately.
Man, it's I try to, like, when people ask me about Revel and part of the most reason why you come over, it's usually because of what's in place, right? And when you have we have Ryan and Nikki at the helm, and it's what you see is what you get.
Yeah,
right. It's super genuine. Like I just when we see each other at functions or we're texting or emailing, and it's just like. It's always it just feels and sits right all the time, right? Needless to say. So,
yeah, it's funny because, in my role, I get to sit with hundreds of agents a year.
Yeah.
And, the ones that don't come on board, it's almost good that they didn't, because it would probably cause problems down the road where if you're only looking for the lowest split, the earliest cap, profit or revenue share, or all that kind of stuff, where that's your only focus. It's like, well, why don't you think about the opportunity or growth? Like, there's literally there's no ceiling here. Like, eventually you could move out of your role, you could stop selling, and you can have another office and another and another and another and another. And that's the beauty of hopping on with a company in its infancy.
Yes.
Is that you could take those territories before they have a chance to develop.
Exactly.
But none of that means anything if you're not bought into the culture that's already there.
Yeah. Like Emily and I had a call earlier this week. Great chat. And just to talk about, she brought up, the whole contract thing, and how do I position it, or what's the feedback that I get from agents, which is great question, and great for the leadership to acknowledge that,
right? Yeah.
Acknowledge it. Like it's beautiful. Be like, look, like we've been in the industry long enough. The types of brokerages out there, the discount brokerages, the capping stuff, which is great. I capped it.
Every brokerage has something for someone.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right. And it was great. I was at KW. I capped, 5 out of my 6 years there, which was great. But sorry, going back to that, and I'm the way I position it with prospects is, if I can, with the help of the REVEL brand and how we carry things out, right? And then, the kind of day-to-day coaching, the support that we're known for, like if I can help you, forget about not having X split and not having a cap situation, you're never going to think about it ever again.
Right.
Right. Like, to me, it's just, if you're constant, like I say this to people all the time, the capping thing's great. It's unbelievable. But to me, it only works for higher producing agents. Mm-hmm. Like, and I've run the math, and I've had these conversations with agents that I recruited onto the previous brokerage.
Right.
It doesn't work for everybody. It would not make sense. The business model would not make sense, right? So, but the expansion opportunity, to me, that's the first thing that comes out of my mouth, and people are like, "Why did you leave?" I'm like, first of all, it was the attraction. There was natural attraction, and to me, it's just like the business model and the way REVEL just, they create the hub, the HQ, the back end support, which is unlike no other. And then they have the full trust in the head coach just to be like, we've obviously brought you on. We've agreed to be in business together. Go do what you got to do in that market. And that freedom and the no micromanaging, which I couldn't even see that, happening.
Yeah.
Because there's just, the personalities aren't there. Right. But there are a lot of, I had an insurance conversation with someone the other day. Right. And they were looking elsewhere because there was micromanaging involved. And that's just not something that...
it goes back to, like I said, like attracting your tribe. REVEL wouldn't have signed you on if they felt that they needed to micromanage.
Exactly.
And so that's what I really love. And it's like I tell everybody, like, I invented this role, not because Ryan or Nikki or REVEL didn't have the foresight to implement it. It's just that nobody was there. I took advantage of it. And I said, look, hey, can I do this? They're like, wow, you want to do this for us? I was like, yeah, of course. Why not? And it's one of those things where it's like nothing's off the table. Rising tides floats all boats. We grow together, and these positions open up.
Yes.
And whether you see it, whether I see it, whether they see it, there's always something that using your skill set can be promoted. So let me ask you this. What's the biggest difference now in your business between being a team leader and now being a brokerage leader, head coach?
The biggest difference?
Yeah.
Is the amount of responsibility.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, I think you grow as an agent, you grow as a leader. I think I can always admit to people that I'm still learning. Right.
Yeah.
Like I went from, I'm learning from overseeing a team of 7 to overseeing a brokerage of 21 plus and counting. Mm-hmm. Right. So, I mean, 3X that in a very short amount of time, thankfully, right. With the people we have in place, but it's pushed me to think deeper and more creatively. Yes. Right. Like I always, my saying at the office is, this is always for the greater good. Right. And, when people, not, just in general, when they want to speak about me, and how this affects me, it's not something I'm a big fan of. Right. Like, to me, it's gotta be for the collective. I mean, my phone doesn't stop, which is a good thing. Yeah. Right. There's people.
Take advantage of it. You know?
So, I mean, it's away right now. I feel
I feel
anxious, right?
Yeah. I had another appointment before this. It's the same thing. I'm like, oh my God, we're back to back. How do I answer calls?
Yeah.
But, luckily in the other podcast we were talking about, leveraging with purpose. And we get busy and the greater good. And it's now not just for me, but it's about finding the who, not how.
Yes.
So it's not like, oh, how do we grow? How do we do this? How do we do that? It's who can help us grow? Who will help us get there? Who has the insight or that bird's eye view of our business?
Yeah. So I will tell you, I do get a lot of those at my office. Like I have some very sharp agents that we work with, and they have no problem approaching me, right? I have long-standing relation with a lot of them, be like, hey, look, I took a step back. I saw this, I saw that. Maybe something we can work towards, right? So I'm all ears. And again, I just love how we can throw around these ideas and bring them together cohesively, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, but back to your question, like it's the level of responsibility. But again, I love the way you said that. It is about the who, right? It's people are gonna drive the way any business needs to go, right? So
right.
So I've been, I'll say, like, a very lucky that people have bought in and the trust in me to lead Revel, obviously alongside Dylan, Ashley, Uptown, and I know they're doing a great job too, but there's the foresight there. I remember having the chat with Ryan and Nikki, and just how forthcoming and honest obviously they always are, and they're like, yeah, just there's Revel escarpment going up, but we see it this way, where 2 locations is going to be better than one, obviously, in a market like Hamilton.
So big,
right? It's vast, right? Obviously, it's not Toronto, but I mean, you're dealing with some massive teams that have had stranglehold on market share for God knows how long. We all know those. We all know those names, right? And then it's like, pride aside, like, yeah, you know what? That makes a lot of sense. I'm a team player, and it's been great. It's been great, and we've connected with a couple agents at Revel Escarpment, and starting the exchange about information and help and this and that. So it's been great that way. Talked to Dylan a bunch, Nick up there as well. So I mean, it's well positioned for sure.
So then what if, let's just say that, we've got an agent, 3 years, 5 years, 10 years in the business. They're starting to put piece together 50, 70 deals. Maybe they got a team. What do you think was an important thing for you, or maybe looking back now, what do you think, if they were interested in either growing their team or maybe starting their own office, whether it's with Revel or with anybody, what do you think the biggest, deciding factor towards getting off to the right step, becoming successful, where do you think they should start looking or educating themselves on?
So you're saying a team that's already at that level of production?
Yeah, they're at about 50, 70 deals. So they're not doing like 100, 200, 500, where they most likely would have everything in place already, right? So where do they start? What should they look for?
In a brokerage?
Yeah, in anything.
Support?
Yeah.
Support. CRM's not going to save you.
No.
Any CRM's not going to save you.
No.
Right? I mean, to me, it's about transitioning properly as well. I've gone through this several times in the last few years, and shifting, whether in and out of CRM or in and out of a brokerage or on a team, off a team, whatever the case is. But I mean, that's got a big part. That's a big part of it to me. But the support, to me, it's the ultimate,
right,
on every level.
Is there anything that maybe you wish you did before you started Hamilton to help kickstart it in any way? Or do you feel like if I had to do it again, I'd just continue doing it?
Yeah, I'm a trial by fire guy.
Me too.
Right?
Me too. Big time.
I know
Big
you and
time.
we operate
sometimes
the same.
To a fault.
Yeah, exactly. To a fault. Like I'll say with an efficient kind of,
of course,
kind of theme to it, we'll say. But to me, it's like, if I don't know, if I haven't experienced it, how will I know how to deal with it? I mean, I've gone through a ton of experiences now, where I can look back and be like, never again. Yes, never again. for sure, but this way, whatever the case is, right? So, but going back to the question, like, you're looking to take the next step like that. That's where we were at, right? 2-3 years ago. And now we're, kind of 2-3x the amount of deals that have been happening per year. But I don't see anything else being more invaluable than support when joining a brokerage. Because support is going to mean a multitude of things. It's not just, hey, can Bailey help you upload this or show you how to do that on the technical side.
Yeah.
But to have better conversations with sellers and buyers, and, maybe there's tweaks that need to happen in the system, and their lead flow, wherever the case is, now going through it for a few years and having to make adjustments here and there.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you that word comes out of almost everybody's mouth that I sit with.
Yeah. Same.
On the recruiting side. Like, I think where the real estate's transitioned into a space now where all the business models are out there. Still think REVEL's is the most unique and effective, but it always comes out. They're like, oh, I was at this brokerage, but I was left out to dry, hang,
And I know what you mean, because I've been doing this position for a long time.
Yeah.
3 years. And, which is a long time to me, considering I've only been in the business. This is my start of my 6th year, January. But when I first started, it was like, okay, what's the commission split? Did you guys provide websites, CRMs? That's what the two things: commission split, CRM, and website. And in the last 2 years, I think ever since COVID, maybe, is that now what's the number one important thing? What is the one, if in a year from now, what do you want to hope that you have achieved? And it's all about, by the end of my 12 months, I want to be educated, and I want to be ready to take my year 2 to an extreme level.
Yes.
And basically it all comes down to being supported, educated, and well-trained. And that's where I think we thrive. But it's interesting that that's the shift now. People want to learn.
Yeah. It's about time, because we've gone through violent markets on both sides of the spectrum in a very short amount of time.
Yeah.
We've gone through the COVID, and I think you and I both know there's a lot of realtors that aren't in the business anymore.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Because, it was a great 2 years, but not for everybody.
No, it wasn't. Like,
people had the fortitude to take advantage of it.
Yeah. Like, you know how it went, right? You walk into a listing, you pick a price point, hold for 7 days, and off you go.
Yep.
Right. So, and I even hear this from like people outside of the industry, like in my sphere, my network, right? Because we're all going through, we're all feeling it in the mortgage industry, in the insurance industry, right? And the lending industry, whatever the case is, right? So, it's the support, and I am like, to echo your point, I'm hearing way less of like, when the commission slide is the last one, and I don't know if people have not signed on, like that 100% wasn't the reason.
Right.
Yeah. It came down to nothing, right? It's usually, this was a better fit, or, some of us you just don't hear back from.
There's a lot of times it's kind of just stick with where they are sometimes, because the move is scary. And I'm here to tell you that we have our own onboarding specialist, so it's not scary.
Yeah.
But before we sign off here, you've kind of given your tips to leaders and agents, but what about, let's put the focus on you and your office. So if anybody was out there, what should they know to help them make a decision to come and sign up with Hamilton Central?
Just make sure instinctively it feels good, right? When I get the follow up, or I follow up with prospective agents, they're always like, hey, just heads up, I am meeting with. I'm like, it's no problem. That should be natural. That should be natural. Like, to me, I didn't mean, like, it was different circumstance at the time, because I had friends at the previous brokerage, and I was just like, yeah, let's go, because I didn't care. Just like, I just wanted to dive into the business, learn, educate, and strengthen my position as a realtor. And then naturally, the income would grow.
Right.
And, thankfully it's happened for the last few years. So in terms of, what was the question again? What's Hamilton
Just
Central?
Like, how do you? What's the big value prop to join Hamilton Central?
It's again, it's like not to be redundant. It's just like it's how intimately like involved we are in a day to day.
Yeah, I love that.
Right. So like, I know I could never do anything without Bailey, and you know, we've been together a long. We've known each other a long time. We've been together a long time now, and you know, we're in the boardroom all the time, just talking and thinking about different ways to do this and to do that, right? And always making sure we can pivot the right way. But I tell people that, you know, if you're comfortable with all the specs of your contract and you're ready to move forward and join Revel, I'm kind of like just a little like direct, and I'm like, you will not regret what you're about to do.
Yeah.
Right. And I know Paula sends out, you know, those 3-month kind of.
Yeah. And 6 months, which I didn't know about.
Yeah. And 6 months, which is great. Thank you, Paula.
Yeah.
But those are incredible, right? Because, you know, you're CC'd on those and you see the responses and, you know, not to say that some sleep hasn't been lost in the last few months, but it's all again for.
Been there, buddy.
Right. Yeah. So for the greater good moving forward. But, you know, the other thing is I'm not an arrogant dude, but I've been through basically every sale that could happen, right? Whether single family to, you know, mixed use to apartment buildings to land to whatever. Like the experience has been there. And that was part of my thought process and evolving, right? It's like, look, I think now I can put myself in this role knowing that I can help people through this deal and that deal, right? So, but there's such a wealth of, you know, kind of collective knowledge that has come together. But I just, it's like it's an oath that if you do join, what you see is what you get. So that's really what it comes down to.
I love it, man.
Yeah.
And it seems like it's almost like
it's kind of working so far.
Good. Yeah, I'd say. But it's kind of replicated in each one of our offices. Basically, everybody's kind of mimicked the same thing. Yeah. So then the last question is, how does everybody find you?
My cell phone. No, I'm just kidding. The Madge Realty Group. I mean, I'll give up my cell phone. Okay, this thing never stops anyways, but
it's another couple hundred phone calls.
Yeah, exactly. So the Majd Realty Group, MAJD Realty Group on Instagram, on Facebook. We have our Revel Hamilton Central Facebook business account as well, and Revel Hamilton Central on Instagram, which Madeline is now overseeing.
Nice.
Yeah. She's doing a great job with that.
She is doing a good job. Eh?
Yeah. So I mean, John's got enough on his plate that maybe we could relieve him of one account. But she's taking it and driving it forward. So it's a few different access points there.
I love it.
MadgeRealtyGroup.com on the website.
Sweet, buddy. Well, thank you so much.
My pleasure.
Love it. Until next time, guys, if you're watching us on YouTube, don't forget to subscribe. If you're watching us on Facebook, Instagram, follow, hit the notification button. I'm terrible at this part. Spotify, don't forget to download because we love those downloads and stream counts. And then, of course, what's the other one, Sam? Yeah, I know, but there's something else they added. Oh, leave a review on Spotify. You can do that now. Yeah, you leave a review, and that helps us grow the account and get more quality content to you. Yeah. Peace.